Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I'm so glad to have you all here. Josh, Zach, Luca, as well as anybody who is lurking. It is wonderful to have you here. How is everybody doing today? We're going to be getting back to Phoenix Wright in just a moment. And I realized, I don't know how it took me this long to realize it. We've been quite rude to Phoenix all this time. Discussing his, less discussing, more planning his sex life with Edgeworth. When, of course, Phoenix is an ace attorney. He's not sexually attracted to Edgeworth. And we can prove that because we also know that if Phoenix weren't ace, Edgeworth's balls would be gently massaging his chin at this very moment. Anyway, let's get to the game. I'm sorry if that went too far, but I'm also not taking it back. Let's get back to the game. Did I not? There, it just took a moment. So yeah, last stream we discovered a couple of very interesting and confusing things. The biggest one of which is the same victim was murdered in two places at the same time. Now, for those of us who know about things like physics and reality and just the passage of time, that's obviously impossible. So we're investigating what the heck at this point. The police have made 2 arrests. They have arrested 2 different suspects for the crime of killing one person in 2 places at the same time. It's very confusing. Hopefully we can untangle it all. 1741, that's much later. I believe we were pretty much done with this area. We had investigated almost everything. A pile of junk lies battered, worn, and forsaken. Aren't you being a little dramatic? Looks like a fishing pole and a metal detector. Not sure what this one is. Enjoy the lurk, Red Mage. They cast a withering gaze in our direction that screams, "Dust me!" Can't junk just be plain old junk? No, we must be dramatic. Piece of white cloth is sticking out. Looks like a shirt. You'd better tidy up or it'll get wrinkled. Hey, don't look at me. I didn't leave it hanging out like that. One of the interesting things we got was an ID of all the people who entered the evidence room. And it's worth noting that the evidence room is the second place the murder occurred. And just before the murder, Miles Edgeworth entered. Well, not just before. The murder took place at 5:15. Bruce Goodman, the dead man, entered at 5:14, as did somebody else merely a moment later. But Miles was in here about 30-ish minutes before that. Not incredibly suspicious, but slightly suspicious, and someone was in here for 4:20. So, you know, we've got some smokers among the police. But I think we've got everything we need in this area. I just want to go over it once more. Also, the disadvantage of skipping for 2 weeks is that I do not remember everything that we were doing. I do know that there was another crime that Goodman investigated, and this seems to be related to why he was killed. There's blue and yellow paint here. This is all I'd need to paint a portrait of you, Mr. Wright. Is it? Wearing a red necktie, you know. That's your main objection, Phoenix. I mean, sure. You know, you're probably not wrong, Josh. That yellow crime scene tape. You know, yesterday was my first time seeing that. It was always my dream to push through the crowd and just step over the tape. It's a little daunting to encounter it again so soon. I think maybe you're overreacting a little. Detective Goodman's evidence locker. It's empty. Only Detective Goodman himself can open this locker. So the person who took out this knife had to have been Detective Goodman. Why was it wrapped in that scarf muffler and stuck inside the car muffler? Good questions indeed. Okay, yeah. I think we're done here. God, I forgot about Jake Marshall. I think I'm probably done with him as well. Anything new anywhere here? Oh yeah, this is the dude who was arrested. God, I remember nothing of what I was planning to do. Wait. Maybe this guy can fill in the blanks on... or at least one of the blanks on the ID card record. Officer Meekins, could you take a look at this? I am sorry, sir. Really sorry, but I have no idea what that is. Maybe you should ask Mr. Edgeworth, sir. He's passing the buck, Mr. Wright. Takes a special kind of man to pass the buck to Edgeworth. Okay. Everything else aside, that's as good a lead to follow as any other. We know Edgeworth was in there. Does it, T-Dragon? Did I forget? I think I forgot to update my title and everything. Whoops, thank you for pointing it out. It should be fixed now. I forgot to click one button, and that resulted in me being a liar. Can't believe it. There we go, a thing has changed. Ah, guests, my apologies. Oh, it's you. Also, welcome, T-Dragon. Have we met somewhere? Huh? Mr. Edgeworth, I beg your leave. So long. Is Edgeworth here? There, standing by the window, a teacup in his hand. He does not look like a man who is standing by the window with a teacup in his hand. Right. He has the hotel bring him tea service? Mr. Edgeworth, you're back from the district prosecutor's office during inquiry? God, that... I could not get through that sentence. I am. By the way, Detective Gumshoe was looking for you. Ah, yes. He brought me the latest information, it seems. Really? Was it helpful? Apparently a new French restaurant is opening near here. I think he was trying to console me somehow. Oh, whoa, Juice. The real info is on the other side, Edgeworth? Poor Mr. Edgeworth. I think this whole thing is really taking a toll on him. So, how did the inquiry committee go? Actually, they decided to treat this not as a case of concealing evidence, but as a communications error during the investigation. concealing evidence? Yes. Apparently there are some who believe that I concealed evidence. No, Edgeworth. You didn't conceal evidence. You faked evidence. It's very different and much worse. They gave me a warning. You were lucky this time. Again. Again? I've heard them say that so many times. Ever since that case 2 years ago. Are you okay for the trial tomorrow? Well, I'm still the presiding prosecuting attorney. However, something happened. They gave control of the investigation over to the police department. The police department? Yes. Any further investigation for this case will be directed by the Chief of Police Gant. Yeah, but he's a dickbag. I can do nothing but wait for his results. I see. Why, I ask you, why? All along I've done only what I believe is right. I have nothing to be ashamed of, except for illegally faking evidence and preparing witnesses, and you've got plenty to be ashamed of, fucker. I love you, Edgeworth, but, you know, because you're a dick, not in spite of it. But still. Wow, I've never seen him this out of sorts. Anyway, why were you in the evidence locker the day of the murder, buddy? Oh, right, I'd better check this now. As I was saying, What's this? A record of ID card usage? Edgeworth, you went into the evidence room that day, didn't you? Just before the incident occurred, no less. Yes, that's true. Why, Mr. Edgeworth? Please don't look at me like that. I was asked to go. By Chief Gant, no less. Who's going to deny it? We know how this goes. Chief of Police? He wanted evidence for a case that wrapped up half a year ago. He told me he wanted me to keep it here, in the prosecutor's office. But it was solved, right? It would have to be if the evidence was already filed. The chief is never one to explain himself. In any case, on the day of the stabbings, I brought this back here. Can I ask what kind of case it was? I can't say. I mean, it was a murder. There are only murders in this world. It really has nothing to do with the current case. Oh, I'm pretty sure that will turn out to be untrue. Now I'm curious about this other case. I'd better make a note of it. Unrelated evidence. Screwdriver added to the court record. Stubborn as always. I told you this has nothing to do with the current case. That's not how this works. This actually remains interesting. This lost item report. So this was submitted by Bruce Goodman on the day of his murder. But it's worth noting, he didn't know his ID number, which strongly suggests that the item that he had lost was his ID, meaning when he scanned in, it probably wasn't him. It was someone else with his... I don't remember how this case ends at all, but I'm really enjoying it. I wonder if he remembers anything about this jar. Right, please. I'm the prosecutor on this case. You don't expect me to sit here and discuss the case with you over a cup of tea. I'll pass on the tea. Just tell me about the case. Mr. Wright! Mr. Edgeworth just told you no in a very polite manner. Whose side are you on, anyway? I mean, she's not wrong, Phoenix. Maybe if I just show him my best evidence, I can get some reaction out of him. Well, I did show him evidence. Now I just need to show him more. Okay, that's not the one. I don't know if there's anything more I actually need to ask him. Or present. But type of tea people drink in the early afternoon tells you a lot. What type of tea do you drink in the early afternoon, Juice? Tell us. I must know. It's very important for reasons. What else might he be interested in? Oh! I know you. You've probably got hold of some information already. Right? It all has to do with that case you were on. The SL9 incident. Ooh, Lady Grey is a nice one. Or on a spring day, a nice orange blossom white tea. I've never even had that. That sounds lovely. And some dark suspicion you were wrapped up in? You were the man who revived the worst memory of my life. Okay, look, fucker. I figured I'd be telling you about this sooner or later. Must be talking about his father's murder in that elevator. Okay, Edgeworth, why don't you tell me about it? Tell me the truth. The SL9 incident was a heinous serial killing case. Oh. That is, I vaguely remember that, but I had forgotten. The head of the investigation was the deputy chief of police at the time. Damon Gant. Oh my god. His first name is one letter away from being demon, and he's got a red and black cross on his tie. Chen, thank you for the sub. And in fact, it is not 5 months. It is 6 months. Okay, Chen, it's worth noting that has happened to me before, where Twitch just straight up lies. Also, hello, Chris. Chen, you're my favorite clown. That wacky old coot was involved in the case 2 years ago too, then. He was a top officer, and it was my first time working with him. I was nervous. Wow, you get nervous too, Mr. Edgeworth? Yay, Chris, I'm so glad. Especially about Nia, the best character. What I want to know is why was a deputy chief of police on the investigation? Chen, no, cease. Cease, I refuse. I know what you're thinking, and no, do not. In truth, I used slightly more extreme methods than normal. We were dealing with a vicious murderer. Chen, why? But thank you for gifting a tier 1 sub to Juice. That's very kind of you. Also, I'm not hearing my alerts, which is weird. I don't know if anybody else is hearing them. Okay, I've got my volume quite low, so it's probably just that. I mean, alerts matter much more for everyone other than me. Oh wait, I heard it that time. Chen, please no. Thank you for giving a tier 1 sub to Chris. I hope that wasn't just to test my alerts, because that is unreasonable and unnecessary. But also, you're very cute. We were dealing with a vicious murderer. If I let him go, the blood would be on my hands. We won our guilty verdict and the killer was executed. Wait, you didn't? Of course not. I didn't touch the evidence. You know, Edgeworth, you say that as if you haven't done it before. I did not say that at all, Stitch. You matter greatly, and I love you. Yes, I will do anything in my power to win a trial. However, I do have a code and I follow it faithfully. Do you, fucker? By the way, Emma, the chief prosecutor wanted to know something. My sister? What? If you were still studying forensic science. Huh? Yes, of course. Why, just today, Mr. Wright and I were using this to find cum stains on his bedsheets. Luminol testing fluid, Well then, you might have use for this. Aluminum powder for taking fingerprints? It's been chemically treated for better adhesion. For me? Are you sure? No sex with the evidence and no tampering with witnesses. The other way around, that is not included in his code. I have no say in today's investigation. Do as you will. Edgeworth, I'm really... No need to thank me. Here, take your powder and these fingerprint files for everyone involved. Thank you. How about giving these to Detective Gumshoe as well? So, yeah, this trial has a lot of these extra tools. Let's get going. One last investigation. Right. I do seem to remember seeing suspicious handprint somewhere. You're not wrong, Juice. I love Gumshoe, but he would. No! Juice never said that, and Stitch, you need to moderate your exercise. I think where we need to go... Oh! Our cowboy has left. I'm kinda sad. Our investigation turned up a suspicious handprint. Here, in this blood on the detective's evidence locker. Let's use the secret weapon we just borrowed. Right, let's get started. First, choose a finger. A finger? Each finger leaves behind a slightly different imprint. So let's choose the finger that will have left behind the clearest print. I would guess the index finger? In spite of the thumb being, like, the biggest one there, it's also kind of side-on. Quit procrastinating and choose a finger. Okay, now it's time to check for prints. Let me show you how it's done. First, we sprinkle the aluminum powder around. Huh? How do you do that? Haha! You see, again, this was originally for the DS release, and like you tapped it on the touch screen, and then you had to blow the powder off, and it was so rad. God, the DS was amazing. The aluminum powder adheres completely to the print. Once the powder is well spread, just blow away the excess. How do I do that? No. Pressing E? That's much less exciting. Imagine you're blowing out the candles on a birthday cake. See? Wow, that looks like fun. Might take some getting used to, though. It's fine. It won't go up your nose or anything. Just pour the powder on thick and blow away the extra. Those are the basics of fingerprinting, Mr. Wright. Guess I'd better give it a try. You did say thick. I'm going to attempt to cover every pixel with white. No one will say that I was not diligent. Aha! You did it! You found one. But this looks nothing like a fingerprint. Now that you mention it, I guess it doesn't. What does it mean? It means gloves. We're out of luck. Out of luck? Person who left this handprint must have worn gloves. Don't tell me we've been wasting our time here. Hey, calm down. That's just the way it goes with scientific investigations. But it does seem a shame. While we're at it, why don't we look for other prints? Other prints? Looking at the locker door again closely. Seems like there are fingerprints outside the bloody handprint as well. Let's see if we can find a clear print. Well, this is Gumshoe's locker, so this is probably going to be Gumshoe's fingerprint. Okay. I've blown plenty away. I think I'd like to try one of the other... What?! What? No, but I did the thing! I probably missed like one fucking pixel that I needed for that to count as a full print.
Alright, it's decision time.
I was correct.
So would you rather have a punch in the face or a kick in the balls?
If I have to choose one, I'll take the punch in the face. I guess. The answer, as always, was more cocaine. Yay! A print so clear it's dazzling. Dazzling? Anyway, this print took a lot of effort to find. Let's match it up right away. So we're not done yet? It's quite a process. Well, there's no point in finding a fingerprint and not knowing who the owner is, right? I guess she's right. Look at the fingerprint data we got from Mr. Edgeworth and point out the person you think left these prints. How am I supposed to know who it was? Phoenix! You are being coached by a literal child. I could make a pretty good guess. The bloody handprint and the fingerprints are in different places, right? That means that the prints probably don't have anything to do with our case. So whose fingerprints would we most likely find on this evidence locker? And yeah, I like this system. I also like that it like gives you a match percentage here. Or it doesn't. I thought it gave you like a match. Oh. You have to click compare, and then it will give you like a... Yeah, this seems likely. So you can just brute force it, unfortunately. Aha! These prints belong to Detective Gumshoe. Something wrong, Mr. Wright? You gave me this so what look. Guess that's probably because I was thinking, so what? Okay, so we came up with nothing this time, but there's always next time. Sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. You gotta roll with the punches, Mr. Wright. Thanks for the sympathy. Wait, if I remember correctly, there was one other handprint in this room. Let's check it out. I'm guessing on this locker. No, apparently not. Oh wait, I've got to use the tool. Think? No, no. That was incorrect. Stitch, how dare you? This game is good, and also those games are good. How dare you, Stitch? You've broken my heart. This is where we got a luminol fluid reaction, right? Oh, I forgot, we did. Yes, the biggest problem with this game is its age. But I still love it. God, Chris, you're right. I hate that. Okay. Want to try using this? There go her eyes sparkling again. Okay, let's check for prints. That's the spirit. Oh, but I have to warn you about something first. What? The area with the blood was wiped away, right? We only ended up finding it using chemical means. Any prints in that area will have been wiped away too. Oh, right. So that means no prints. Would you say the probability of your hypothesis is high? Emma, you don't have to talk like that. Don't ask me! Thank you, Stitch. I think that's a good thing. Anyway, we must try to find prints that weren't wiped away. Prints other than the ones left by the bloody hand. Well, those 3 were left behind, so I would guess roughly there. Doo-doo-doo. Plenty of cocaine. Obtain a fingerprint. More cocaine. More fingerprint. Given a bit of a twist, I think this is in fact Damon Gant. Yep. Nope. Okay. So you don't have to worry about twisties. That's good. Oh, this is Jake Marshall. That's close enough, Chris. Hey, these fingerprints, whose are they? Whose? Is it someone I know? It's Officer Marshall. Huh? Officer Marshall? That's gotta be a coincidence. He's not involved in the crime. Emma, this is decidedly different from Detective Gumshoe's prints. The luminol reaction. The blood and the fingerprints are in the same place. Oh. So we have Jake Marshall's fingerprints on a wiped bloodstain. That's certainly curious. But why would Officer Marshall... Looks like our investigation is finally turning up some results. I guess this is what you'd call decisive evidence. I don't believe it. She has known Officer Marshall since she was a kid, so yeah, I can understand her not wanting to believe that. So, what do you think, Mr. Wright? I think the prosecution is as confused as we are. After all, the victim was murdered in 2 different places at the same time. And a different suspect was arrested at each of the crime scenes. God damn, Lana's amazing. Lana! Good morning, Mr. Wright. I apologize for yesterday. I was indisposed. I hope they didn't hold you too long for questioning. We just finished, actually. I'm used to all-nighters, though. So, how'd it go? It's as Mr. Wright suspects. Police are clueless. I figured as much, so I struck a plea bargain. A plea bargain? What do you mean by that? We agreed that if I told them the truth behind this simultaneous murder, they wouldn't seek capital punishment. That's what I mean, Emma. But Lana, don't tell me you... Much to my regret, I'm as much in the dark about this as they are. Miss Skye. We found trace evidence of a certain person in the police department's evidence room. They belong to Officer Jake Marshall. What kind of trace evidence? Blood-stained fingerprints, to be exact. That's the trump card I have up my sleeve today. You do understand what this means, don't you? In order to defend my sister, you're going to accuse Mr. Marshall? If nothing else, it throws doubt. We have to play the cards we're dealt. Isn't that right, Miss Skye? Do what you have to do, Mr. Wright. Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Prosecution is... I'm afraid you'll have to clarify. It takes 30 minutes by car to reach the police department from the prosecutor's office. Yet the victim, Bruce Goodman, was slain at both places at the same time. But that's not physically possible, is it? What's more, I hear the victim from the evidence room just disappeared. Yes, and the body eventually reappeared in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. Wow, this is one messed up trial. One of my duties as prosecutor is to present impartial evidence. Today, I will present evidence relating to the murder at the police department. In so doing, I believe the way in which we should proceed will reveal itself. I like Edgeworth like this, being much more honest about not really knowing the way forward. Now that's what sets Mr. Edgeworth apart. He sounds so on top of things, even though he doesn't know what's going on himself. And that's supposed to be an admirable trait. Very well, let the trial resume. On the day of the crime, what exactly transpired at the police department? Mr. Edgeworth, you may call your first witness of the day to the stand. Stitch, that's a really weird thing to say. But also, I love you for it. For its first witness, the prosecution calls the suspect of the murder that occurred at the police department. The suspect? You mean the so-called murderer? Ooh, boy. Things are getting wild from the get-go. Will the witness please state his name and occupation? Yes, sir. I'm Officer Mike Meekins, sir. My occupation is, that would be murderer, sir. So you're telling us you're a professional killer? Sir, it was me, sir. I'm the one who did it. I'll never kill anyone again, sir. You've got to believe me, sir. Also, I apologize for when the game does that super loud alarm siren. It's gonna happen a couple of times with this dude. I can't stop it. Actually, what would you like to hear? Sir, I'm what you would call part of the younger generation, sir. A person whose actions adults can't possibly comprehend. Please, Mr. Edgeworth, sir. Help me, sir. Officer Meekins. Yes, sir. Give us your report of the crime. Consider that an order. Yes, sir. As you wish. After all, I am part of a generation that must be told what to do, sir. Do you get the feeling the writers of this game kind of had an axe to grind? Can't fault him for a lack of enthusiasm. was not my normal duty. I was assigned to guard the evidence room that day. I spotted a suspicious man on the security screen and rushed into the room. I was only doing what I was trained to do, sir. I was suddenly attacked. I fought for my life, then I did it! After that, I passed out, until another officer smacked me awake.
So the victim, Detective Goodman, attacked you?
Do unto others before they do unto you. That's the Meekins family motto, sir.
I see. Then you fainted and a colleague helped you regain consciousness.
Yes, sir. He knocked me upside the head, sir.
Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination.
What I need here is more info to work with. Yes, that's the point of a cross-examination. Why were you assigned? Mr. Meekins, you work in the General Affairs Department, do you not? Yes, sir. I'm in charge of hiring new recruits, sir. Oh my god. He's in charge of recruitment? How do they get any new cops? Yikes. Now there's a scary thought. Evidence transferal was taking place on the day of the crime, which meant many officers were given special tasks not ordinarily performed. I was in charge of guarding the Blue Badger, sir.
The Blue Badger?
Yes, sir. The lovely mascot created by the Chief of Detectives, sir. It's essentially his Sonic OC, Do Not Steal. Tell me I'm wrong. I was to ensure it wasn't broken during the transferal process. That was my sole mission for the day, sir.
I see. Sounds like a very, important mission.
After the award ceremony finished that day, there were so many people running around that I relocated the Blue Badger to the evidence room.
Oh, so that's why you went to the evidence room.
Tell us, what did you see when you got there? I spotted a suspicious man on the security room and rushed into the room. On the security screen. In order to enter the evidence room, you need an ID card, am I correct? Precisely, sir. I have one right here around my neck. So then, your ID number should be listed on here, right? There it is! I found it! This is the one right here!
Could you please read us the number?
Yes, sir. It's 4989596. That's my number, sir. I see. But the number 4989596 is shown as being used twice. Please explain, witness. It's no real mystery, sir. The first time is when I relocated the Blue Badger to the evidence room. And the second time is when I went to go get him after everything settled down.
I see. So it was during that second time when...
Yes, sir. That was when I spotted the man on the security screen. Only doing what I was trained to do, I was suddenly attacked. So you were attacked. Can you please tell us exactly what happened to you? It was a knife, sir! A knife!
Detective Goodman pulled a knife on you? What happened then?
Well, with me charging in on him like that, he looked as surprised as I was. You aren't exactly the kind of person someone would want to run into. That's when I reacted, sir. I swung my arms like an octopus, struggling to detain him. That's how I got this gash on my hand. Maybe if you'd just kept your cool, your hand wouldn't be... When I saw the blood trickling down my arm, I panicked. I grabbed the man by his collar. How did you not get shanked? What the fuck? Also, your neck is, like, obscenely thin. What exactly do you mean when you say, did it? I know I don't look the type, but I'm really into kung fu films, sir. The man let his guard down for just an instant, so I snatched his knife from him. You took his knife? I spun him around and performed a disarming maneuver. Made sure to close my eyes like a man. I, see. Must have been desperate. The next thing I knew, his white coat was drenched in a sea of my blood. And then the next thing I knew...
Yes?
He punched me right in the face, sir. Okay. That's different to what I thought he meant by I did it. About what time did you regain consciousness? No offense, sir, but how am I supposed to know that? I was unconscious. Oh, right. According to the report from the officer that woke up the witness, it was about 5:30. Okay, someone gets punched and loses consciousness for 15 minutes. They need to go to the hospital for, like, to check for a concussion. And there's a good chance they've got severe brain bleeding, not brain bleeding. But yeah, people underestimate how dangerous losing consciousness from a blow to the head is. He hit me right in the head, too. I woke up crying tears of pain.
That's nice. I mean, it's nice that you recovered, that is.
When I came around, though, I made sure to finish my mission, sir. Your mission? Yes, sir. The Blue Badger, sir. I returned him to the entrance before things got out of hand. Well, we can all rest easy now.
I believe we now have a fairly accurate picture of what happened.
Yes, Your Honor. Only one thing remains unclear. Was the man this officer murdered really the victim? He's got a point.
Yes, Officer Meekins?
With regard to that, sir, take a look at this. It was sent to my jail cell. Chief Gant delivered it to me just this morning. The chief delivered it?
What is that? Videotape?
Yes, sir. That's absolutely right, sir. A videotape, sir. It contains footage from the security camera in the evidence room. What? But I specifically asked if there was such a tape, and was told it had been mistakenly erased.
That's quite a mistake.
I just do what I'm told, sir. It's the only thing I'm really good at. Looks like communication with the police department is as good as ever.
Well then, let's have a look. Show us the video of you murdering the victim.
Oh, please stop using that word murder, sir. It scares me. Well then, don't be a murderer, fucker. A video of a real murder. Just what are we getting ourselves into? God damn, look at these high-quality 3D rendered graphics. Zaid, you're telling me you don't mount all of your cameras at nipple level? Oh, fuck off! Hi, Merrick. Oh. What a time to arrive.
Well, I believe we're all thinking the same thing. How can we deal with these unsettling feelings stirred within us?
What the hell was that wriggling piece of plywood? You know what? Good fucking question, Edgeworth. This is what comes of Sonic OCs. Sir, that is the pride and joy of the entire Criminal Affairs Department, sir. It's the Blue Badger, sir. Why am I not surprised this isn't going smoothly?
Yes, well, anyway, this tape seems to prove that the witness did encounter someone in the evidence room and some sort of
Your Honor, instead of relying on clearly incomplete footage, the witness's testimony will suffice. Is that alright with you, Officer Meekins? Yes, sir. As you wish, sir. Yeah, that tape showed us nothing. His face can't be clearly seen in the video, but there's no question that the other person was Detective Goodman, sir. I mean, he opened the locker, which required Detective Goodman's fingerprint to do. The locker he opened is unquestionably Detective Goodman's locker. So it must be him. No one else could have unlocked it.
What's this about a fingerprint?
Each detective has been given a locker equipped with a fingerprint-activated lock. These locks ensure that each locker can only be opened by the detective it belongs to.
Intriguing. That would mean the victim at the crime scene would have to have been Detective Goodman. Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination.
I don't know where this cross-examination will lead. Everything begins with contradictions. That's where I have to start. I can press him on this. Tell me, were you able to get a good look at him? At the face of the man who attacked you with the knife? Sir, if you must label people as having seen or not seen the man's face, I believe I would be classified as the latter. The latter? But you were standing right in front of him, were you not?
More to the point, you are the person who fought him, aren't you?
Oh, yes, sir, but I didn't get a clear look at his face, sir. I'm not the kind of guy who looks directly at people when talking with them, you see, he says while staring off 1,000 miles into the distance. Yeah, that's a good trait for a police officer. Still, I'm sure it was him. I'd bet my badge on it. God, look at that face. With his little oh smile and just zero thoughts in his brain. I wish we could all be Officer Meekins for just one day. But you don't know that for sure, do you? You never actually saw Detective Goodman's face. Well, I suppose you might say that. That is, if you must label people as having seen or not seen it.
Since his face can't be identified in the video, only you can verify it.
Why is everyone looking at me? If I had to label your stares as disturbing or... Meekins. My god, did he just cluck like a chicken? I'm fairly confident that's what just happened. Having been shown a questionable video at best, We are not in the best of moods. Now please be more certain when you testify. Yes, sir. You claimed the man who brandished a knife on you was Bruce Goodman. Tell us why you are positive it was him. I mean, he opened the locker, which required Detective Goodman's fingerprint to do. About these lockers, is there no other way to open them? No, sir. I myself tried all kinds of methods in the past. That's not a good thing to say. They only respond to registered fingerprints, sir. Yeah, there's gonna be some kind of bullshit master fingerprint. I wonder what kind of methods he's tried.
If the man opened the locker's lock, which only responds to its registered fingerprints, then he must be the person the locker was assigned to.
Exactly my point, sir. And this too. Locker opened is unquestionably Detective Goodman's locker, sir. I don't think I need to press him on that, but I'm going to. How do you know that information? Heard rumors, sir, from people in the know, sir. People in the know? Here's in the department cafeteria, sir. They keep me informed. They also listen to my romantic troubles, sir. Look, learn how to look someone in the eye, and I think things will improve for you. For the record, the opened locker did indeed belong to Detective Goodman. Verified this information through a more reliable source.
So the victim opened the locker with his own fingerprint.
Ah. However, the most important detail is not shown in this video. The man's face. Sir, if I may say something, sir.
Please do. After all, you are the one being examined.
I don't understand why the man's face is so important in this case, sir. I mean, it was his hand that opened the fingerprint lock. His hand which had been cut off. I mean, probably not. And it was his hand that tried to thrust his knife into my body, sir. My unsettled state can testify enough to this, sir.
Yes, you have a point. Footage doesn't lie.
That is, unless the defense can find a problem with it. Mr. Wright, let's check the court record again. Is there? That's a remarkably good question. Oh, I think I know what the issue might be. It's weird if true. But let's run through it. Because there was one weird thing I noticed. Dude walks in, blah blah blah. Dude opens the locker, glove falls out. Now, glove falls out isn't inherently a bad thing. We don't see the face. But crucially, how did he get out? Where did he go from there? Oh yeah, Merrick. Very convenient timing. Does this just loop now? It does. So there is a problem with it. Regarding the video contained on this tape, there is one thing in particular that seems rather strange.
Strange?
This contradiction leads to the possibility that the man may not have been Detective Goodman.
What? This video contains such a contradiction?
Interesting. Your Honor, I have a proposal.
Yes, Mr. Edgeworth?
I propose we have the defense point out to us this alleged contradiction in the video. He would want me to point it out. Well, of course he would. He's the opposing counsel.
Very well. Proposal accepted. Let us further inspect this piece of evidence. I will now play the security tape. Please show us this contradiction you speak of.
I have to point out a problem in the video? This is the first time I've ever had to do that. You can do it, Mr. Wright. It's set up so you can fast forward, rewind, or pause the video. Just take a good look and be sure to point out the right thing. Now, this kind of bothers me, because this makes me think I'm wrong about the how did he get out thing, because there's no way to really point that out. Please don't play it too many times. I can't stand watching this video. How did this guy ever become a police officer?
Now then, Mr. Wright, please enlighten us. Where is the contradiction that indicates the man may not be Goodman?
Oh shit! Oh shit? Am I? Yes! The light above his locker is already lit. The locker's already open. Or at least unlocked. The thing that's strange about this video has got to be this. Officer Meekins. Sir, do you mean me, sir? As I understand it, the locker apparatus works like this. Oh, could you stop with the dang music? When you grab the handle, the sensor reads your fingerprint. If it's a match, the light turns on and the lock is released. According to my very limited experience, that's the way I understand it, sir. If so, then something is seriously wrong with this picture. Yeah, God, don't make me watch this again. When the victim reaches for the handle to open the locker. Let's rewind to a little earlier. Art, it's so slow. Yeah, I feel like this is going to follow me into sleep tonight. Here, notice the light?
What's this? It's already lit.
Precisely my point, Your Honor. Now this is good music. The locker was already open before the victim grabbed the handle. Oh my god, it is a chicken clap! He balks when things go wrong.
Porter! What's the meaning of this?
It's very simple, Your Honor. The locker wasn't locked on the day of the crime. But the locker locks are controlled by an electronic system. When the door is shut, a sensor is triggered, and the locker is automatically locked.
Oh, I know. It must have been broken down. Of course, I'm not an expert in this.
That's not likely, Your Honor. The sensor would detect and report any malfunction.
Oh well, it just goes to show novices should keep their mouths shut. So then, Mr. Wright, do you have an explanation?
I do! The other thing I pointed out. Me, Your Honor?
Yes. Why wasn't the locker locked?
Me, Your Honor? Yes. Well, you see, this isn't exactly my field. What do you think, Miss Scientific Investigator? Huh? Oh, maybe something like jammed to the system's sensor? Something jammed to the sensor? Say, there's something else that seems out of place in this video. Yeah, I thought so too. There's gotta be another clue somewhere in this footage. Also accurate, Merrick.
Very well, let's inspect the video once more. The locker wasn't locked. Mr. Wright, please point out the cause for this.
Oh god! No! No, again! And from the start? From the fucking start. Just... Wait, I can fucking fast forward. Wait, although I don't need to. I'm enjoying this much more than it deserves, and I cannot explain it. Why am I... Anyway. It's the glove. I think that's part of it, Sade. Please watch closely. This is the continuation of the part I showed you earlier. Okay, no music this time. I love that that music isn't recorded on the video. Clearly. Because otherwise, rewinding would affect it. Instead, there's just someone with a music box in court, busy playing that every time someone looks at the tape.
What's this? Something white fell out of the locker.
But sir, it's been my experience that things fall out when doors are opened. I often fall out and roll great... We can't be sure that item was completely inside the locker to begin with.
What do you mean?
The sensor triggers the lock when the door is shut. What if something was inserted, say, between the sensor and the door?
Inserted?
Yeah, now Music Box Man has gotten tired and gone home. I still think that flag timing is fucking hilarious. This white thing wasn't inside the locker. It was stuck between the door and the sensor. Oh, I understand now, sir. It's just like my tie. 2 out of 3 times it gets stuck in the door when I get out of my patrol vehicle, sir. Instead of the door closing, my tie chokes me.
But the object would have to be extremely thin to fit in the door.
Not only that, it would also have to block electrical currents. It would need to be an insulator, like, mayhaps, a rubber glove of some kind?
Yes, an insulator. At the crime scene,
there just might have been something that fits the description. But, sir, by insulator you don't mean... I think I finally got this figured out.
Very well. Will the defense please present the relevant evidence? What was this insulator that was stuck in the locked door?
It was this extremely thin rubber glove. I found this near the locker. A thin rubber glove.
But we can't be sure that was in the victim's locker.
We can. It has a tag that says SL9 incident. The video seems to depict the victim opening the locker, but that isn't the case. The lit lamp attests to this. On the day of the crime, even I could have opened that locker. Is this not so, Officer Meekins? Sir, it would appear so, sir.
Order, order, order! So, are we to believe, then, that the victim, whom this witness stabbed in the evidence room, was not Detective Goodman?
Do not be misled, Your Honor.
What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth?
The defense has merely demonstrated that possibility, nothing more. The victim in the video was indeed Bruce Goodman. Prosecution will offer one more testimony to prove this. What? Officer Meekins, please testify about this. Sir? Me, sir? I'm not sure what you're referring to, sir. Oh, you mean that, sir? Of course, sir. Is this a joke?
Very well. Begin your testimony.
Yesterday, the judge was getting lunch boxes all throughout the testimony. Now he's just getting a frustrating man who is unable to look anybody in the eye. There's one thing that proves the man was Detective Goodman, sir. To enter the evidence room, one must use their ID card. In this case, I don't think it's coaching quite as much, Josh, as just reminding Meekins about, like, you know, that big thing that he had to talk about. When an ID card is used, there's a record of it. At the time of the crime, the detective had used this card.
An ID card record. I see.
I have the ID card record right here, Your Honor. The ID used at 5:14 is that of the victim.
Just before the crime, hmm? Yes, without a doubt, this is the victim's ID. However, one thing does strike me as unusual. Several hundred cases should have been due for transferal. Why were there so few people using this room?
This particular evidence room is only used for storing certain special cases. Special cases? Extremely violent cases involving police staff. Just hearing that makes my hair stand on end. Me too, although it doesn't make much of a difference. Oh my god, Phoenix addressed his own weird hair. There were only a few cases up for transferal there. Most were cleared up by noon.
Right, I see. Now, let us move on to the cross-examination.
Aha! But I have an important clue. The detective had used his card. Earlier, I believe you testified that when you asked the man to show his ID card, he pulled a knife on you. Yes, sir. He didn't show me any ID card, sir. Don't you think that's odd? I mean, if he had his ID card, all he had to do was show it to you. There wouldn't be any reason to draw a knife. Maybe he just panicked. Everything stems from contradictions. Let's point them out. Mr. Wright, what do you think? I'm confused. What? The problem with this ID card testimony is far too obvious. It's not like Edgeworth to miss something like this. Thinking too hard about it. Come on, let's show them what we've got. Okay, so I know what to present. I'm just not exactly sure when to present it. There are... The detective had used his card. I think this is the time to present what I pointed out earlier, which is Officer Goodman was busy filing a lost item report. And if you look at it, he didn't know his ID, which strongly suggests that the lost item was the ID. Which means anybody could have used it. Wait one moment, Officer Meekins. I'm not good at waiting, sir. I have the victim's ID card right here. I found it at the crime scene.
That makes sense.
When I say crime scene, I'm not referring to the evidence room at the police department. I mean the other crime scene. The underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office. Your Honor, I have one more piece of evidence to present. It's a very important clue regarding the victim's ID card.
Lost item report? It's only half completed.
But it shows that Detective Goodman had lost something on the day of the crime. Something important enough to fill out this report. Let me guess. You believe this something to be his ID card, correct? I can't say for sure, but there's a high probability. On the day of the crime, Detective Goodman was not carrying his card.
Order! Order! So now, what does this all mean?
It can only mean one thing. It doesn't even require much thought. The man Officer Meekins encountered in the evidence room was not Detective Goodman, but rather the man who stole his ID card. And apparently his coat. And his weird white shoes.
Order! 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 Does the prosecution have a response?
I have only one thing to say to the defense. Bravo, Mr. Wright. Bravo. Allow me to summarize the defense's argument. At 5:15 p.m. on the day of the crime, the man in the evidence room Officer Meekins encountered was not Detective Goodman. There are two grounds to support this. First, the locker in the evidence room was already unlocked. Second, the victim lost his ID card. Am I correct so far, Mr. Wright? Yes. What's he up to? That being the case, we must inevitably arrive at a single conclusion. If the victim in this video is a fake, then the murder in the evidence room is also fake. In other words, the security camera does not show the instant of the murder. That is... well, I guess that's right. Is something wrong, Mr. Wright? Only moments ago you seemed content to be pointing your finger around. This isn't gonna end well. Well, well. It seems you finally realized that you're too slow. Every time he does that hand gesture, I can only think of Sonic in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Exactly what you've gone to such lengths to prove.
Explain yourself, Mr. Edgeworth.
The defense has already done the explaining for me. The victim in this video is a fake, which means a murder did not take place at the police department at 5:15 on the day of the crime. So the real crime could only take place at one location, the underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office. The murderer being Miss Lana Skye, the defendant. Oh! Oh, good. Good! I just went to supreme effort to prove that my client is slightly more likely to be guilty. The evidence is compelling. A trustworthy witness observed the moment the defendant used the murder weapon. Ah! I knew that testimony was way too shabby. It was all a trap from the beginning.
The activity in the evidence room still leaves many unanswered questions. Who exactly was the victim Officer Meekins encountered? And where did this person disappear to? However, this trial's purpose is to examine only the murder of Detective Goodman.
Just so, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, you have to do something, or else Lana... What do I do? How am I supposed to get myself out of this mess? I don't think you're ever supposed to wait and see what happens. Because just... why would that be the thing? One moment, Your Honor. What now, Mr. Wright? Don't tell me you're objecting to what you've just proven. Of course not. But I almost walked right into the prosecution's trap. What are you talking about? This cross-examination has proven one thing, and one thing only. The security video did not show the actual murder. Yeah? Yeah. Whoa, shit. I think I just noticed something. However, it cannot be said that it is unrelated to the murder in the parking lot. I think I just noticed something interesting. Specifically, large amounts of blood traces were found in the evidence room. We'll see in a moment, Juice. I think I just noticed something. And it's why the tape goes on longer than you would expect. The defense demands further examination into the truth of the matter.
Mr. Edgeworth?
Yes, Your Honor.
If this court were to examine this further, other witnesses will be necessary. Is the prosecution prepared?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. The prosecution considered the incident at the police department to be unrelated. We have not prepared any other witnesses for this incident. This just might be my chance. Time to call a certain Texas Ranger to the stand. Emma Skye. Mr. Wright, do you mean... Your Honor, the defense would like to request a specific witness.
Oh? Whom do you have in mind?
Someone we have reason to believe knows the truth. The truth behind the activities that took place in the evidence room. Prosecution requests to hear this person's name before deciding whether or not to comply. I want to call God to the stand.
Very well then, Mr. Wright. The person whom you would have testify. What is his or her name?
A certain Texas Ranger. Can't figure it out. Yeah, call Goodman. No, the thing is, we know Jake Marshall's fingerprints were on the scene. Officer Jake Marshall. Why him? Can't let Edgeworth know everything just yet. He's in charge of the evidence room. I feel we should hear what he has to say. The prosecution agrees to the defense's request. Since he was responsible for guarding the room, we should hear his testimony. Fortunately, he works in the police department. We should need no longer than 20 minutes to prepare.
Very well. Court will take a 30-minute recess while the witness is subpoenaed. Will the prosecution please prepare the witness during this time?
We will, Your Honor.
Court is now in recess.
Lana does not look happy with me. I can't imagine why. There's no stopping you, is there, Mr. Wright? No, Juice. It's better Mia. Lana is just so good. Huh? What do you mean? You called for Jake Marshall. It seems you figured everything out. Mia's just not my type, Juice. Lana is completely my type. Cold, emotionally distant, tall. God, she's everything I want. I haven't figured anything out. Okay, Juice, you want the answer? I am not a fan of Mia's booba. There is your answer. spoiler, Merip. We haven't seen her smile yet. I mean, it's obvious that we're going to, but we haven't seen it yet. Ah! Lana's a horrible sister, but, you know. I would hope that I could encourage her to be nicer, because Emma is such a fucking sweetheart. Juice, I'm not harassing anybody! Lana, you're the one who knows everything. Emma, you always know everything. Why don't you just tell us? Mr. Wright is trying his hardest to protect you. I don't recall ever asking for his protection. How can you be so cold? Don't you trust us? Merrick, what are you apologizing for? If I say anything that sounds even slightly mean, please recognize that it's almost certainly teasing. Oh heck, I was teasing about spoilers. Character smiles I do not consider to be a spoiler. You know, it was the butler with the candlestick is a spoiler. Don't you trust us? Don't you trust me? Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. You entirely are, Gumshoe. But for you, anything. I forgive you anything. My good himbo lad. You know, Chris, I'm still pretty sure it was that security lady. Mostly because I just want an excuse to hate her. God, not that I need an excuse. Oh, yes I am. I'll come back later. You're probably right, Chris. Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it? You've got a lot of nerve, pal, making a detective run all around while on duty. And to top it off, you call me here? I've seen happier people at funerals. I didn't call you here. Sorry, Detective. Better be, pal. Hey! 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 I didn't see you there, Chief Prosecutor Sky. That's okay. So, have you brought what I asked? Wow. Zaid, are you okay? Are you having a stroke? You mean this, right? My apologies, Detective. Due to my present circumstances, I was forced to use Mr. Wright's name when making my request. Juice. I don't know why. That tickles me so much. My name? Never in a million years would I have thought it was you who asked me. Could I bother you to bring me the SL9 incident files? I'll need them by noon. Talk about crazy. The SL9 incident? But Lana, that's... Thought Mr. Wright might need them, so I had them brought here. Oh! So with zero preparation, I'm supposed to go through what looks to be several hundred pages of documents. Cool, thank you. Here, you might do well to read them. Oh, all of them? Can't believe you. The chief prosecutor were a witness in that case. Miss Sky was a witness? Files for the Joe Dark killings. Oh my god, what a name. Take it from me. You don't want anything to do with the serial murderers. They have 20 minutes. At least there's a 4-page summary. Perpetrator, Joe Dark, crime, serial murder, sentence, death. That's straightforward enough. Victims, Edward Jones, Jason Knight, Edith Kirby, Rachel Moss, Jeb Bates, and Neil Marshall, presumably brother of Jake Marshall. Head prosecutor, Miles Edgeworth. Witnesses, Lana Skye and Emma Skye. Oh! You got the right idea, Merritt. That's how you do it. Investigation Task Force. Executive investigators, Damon Gant and Lana Skye. Head investigator, Bruce Goodman. Investigators, Jake Marshall and Angel Starr. Yes, he killed Kirby. But, in his defense, Kirby ate his entire ice cream sundae, so I would say Kirby had it coming. Oh, what? Now that I've brought you your stuff, you're just gonna ignore me? Emma? But why? Why is your name in here? What? My name's in there? I don't know. Unless... No, it couldn't be. Lana? This SL9 incident? Is that? That's the classification number the police filed it under. 2 years ago, the rest of the world knew it as the Joe Dark killings. The Joe Dark... No, Lana. That's over with. No! Emma, wait! She ran away. You know what? I just remembered. I gotta be somewhere. Sorry, pal. I'm out of here. Jake Marshall, Angel Starr, Damon Gant, Miles Edgeworth. Not to mention Lana and Emma. Everyone involved in this case is connected to those killings 2 years ago. This can't be just a coincidence. Knowing you, you might just be able to figure it out. Time to get back to the trial, Mr. Wright. Best of luck. Better take a good look at this file. Kirby's never innocent. Kirby's a fucking god killer. Oh yeah, he is the only judge on Earth. Right, and Shulk is by no means innocent. He's the protagonist, but he killed so many fucking people.
The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye.
Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Me, partner? Oh, I'm just a man, same as you, wandering the trails of civilization. Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it.
Oh, I know. You're a patrolman.
I choose to believe, Chris, that that's water, and he's just really into hydration. He just also likes the image of drinking from a hip flask. Oh, his theme is so good, Juice. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind calling it out. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? I've never heard Edgeworth described that way before. Phoenix being way too literal, but I adore it. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct? According to the papers, partner.
What do you mean?
Desperado's soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up.
Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English.
That's a good point, Chris. My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at a street-side saloon at the time it went down. Fucker was day drinking? Oh my god! We've had some problematic witnesses, but the dude who says I was skiving off work to get drunk at a bar across the street, oh by the way, let me pull out a pocket knife and shave in the witness stand? I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail.
I can't say I particularly care for your attitude.
I can say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Sir! Sir! Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems?
I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those.
Yes, well, what about the fingerprint-activated locks on the evidence lockers?
Fingerprint-activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those?
It's not being very helpful. He's not that good with machines, nor with following orders.
Everyone's got their weaknesses now, don't they, Mr. Prosecutor?
Also, how dare you say that? The judge has an amazing beard.
This one seems like trouble.
I like when even the judge thinks the witness is a shitbag.
Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours.
How exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room?
I just made sure nothing moved in the security camera monitor. That room's so still, even time dies in there. I was just a caretaker who interred the recordings.
You interred them?
Videos of nothing aren't that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape. If nothing unusual is recorded, tapes are to be erased every 6 hours. Each time I'd erase a tape, it felt like I was erasing a part of my life.
This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but it isn't going to do him any good. So, in actuality, you didn't physically enter the evidence room.
They said I was supposed to be making rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style.
But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right?
Ain't you heard a word I said, partner? I told you that ain't my style.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
No desperado I know lets rules get in his way.
No desperados I know join the police force.
So, Officer Marshall, the day of the crime? Between you and me, I didn't set foot in the evidence room that day. There was a rubber glove stuck in the evidence locker. You know anything about that?
Sorry, partner. Can't say I do.
Haven't been in that crypt in weeks.
How does this guy avoid being fired? You used to be a detective, so you've used the evidence room in the past, correct?
Of course. Back in the day, my locker was a gold mine of evidence.
And yet, you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism.
Sorry, partner, I ain't good with machines. I couldn't even tell you how a bike works.
That's quite incredible.
Sensors on the locker handles cannot be seen.
It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. Now that he mentions it, Detective Gumshoe said something like that too.
At any rate, it doesn't seem that this is relevant to the crime. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place?
At a street-side saloon. What were you doing in a place like that? I was eating spaghetti. Not even Angel steak lunches can beat that parlor's Vognole sepia pasta? I do not know that word. I want to quickly look that up, if nobody minds too much. Vognole pasta is... Oh! Vognole is, clams. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, my entire body hurts. But also I couldn't mute in time. Oh, my soul just left my body. Hi, Luca. I'm fine. I'm fine. I forgot I had Broku. Anyway. Yeah, so that is pasta with squid ink and clams. It's fine, Red Mage, I'll live.
You mean to tell us you abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles?
Not all desperados eat tacos, partner.
That's not what I meant. I hope this has at least taught you a lesson.
That's strange. This is usually where Edgeworth says, "Did you not want to race this year?" It's interesting, because his handprint was at the crime scene. Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this? X-Demon X, thank you for the follow. It is much appreciated. I hope it was my sneeze that convinced you, because the idea of that makes me incredibly happy. After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. And yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or, to be exact, a handprint. It's real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects. That is, make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there. I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood.
Witness, what's the meaning of this? Your blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene.
Your blood was wiped away. However, a luminol test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall? Seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall? About the blood-stained fingerprints?
Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints found at the scene of the crime.
Oh, Luca, his beard grows incredibly fast in exactly one spot. Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the bloodstained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? You know the murderer was wearing gloves. See? I had nothing to do with it.
The witness's explanation appears valid, although there's room for doubt.
Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner.
The defense may now cross-examine the witness.
This guy's hiding something, I can feel it. Now's my chance to prove it. Oh, Bubbles! Why is that somehow worse? This is the part I'm curious about. How do you know that? I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports. There was a blood stain at the scene thought to be left by the murderer. That's right, it was found on Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Yeah, I think we tried that too.
That would mean the murderer wearing gloves happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint.
That's the only logical conclusion. Can't let him squirm out of this one. I've got to find something decisive to tie Officer Marshall to this crime. I have that could tie him to the crime. Oh! I don't want to rotate. I just want to move my mouse cursor. I feel like if I could... I feel like that's a fingerprint on the knife. Look, that's brilliant. Cowboy dermablading from goop. It's trying to hit... Oh, that's just the label. I don't care about your label. But also, let me do the label at least. That doesn't seem useful. Wait, what was there a thing where I could press E and I was just being a dingus? No, that's zoom in. What about... Got it. I've got it. I've got it! Locker on the far left. There's nothing hanging out of it at the moment. Yeah, Juice, I figured it out. Locker on the far left at the top. It looks just like all the other lockers. Okay? We can establish that. And I believe that is Jake Marshall's locker. They fight. He gets blood on his hands. Locker is still normal. Somehow gets past the camera. Whatever, he was crawling. That's not the issue. But it comes back. And something's happened to the locker. Something's sticking out of the locker. That's... The bloodstain and the finger are completely unrelated. I think this is where I should present it. Unrelated? They're as different as night and day. Hi, Mickey. Kinda like cereal and cereal. One's got to do with breakfast while the other's a type of murder. He's right, although seemingly alike, they're totally different. I don't see what homonyms have to do with this. Although... Did you say that there was a blood stain on the Sonic OC? Because that I didn't notice. I don't... Good lord, there's a handprint on the Sonic OC. I think that one was probably just from when it was being... painted. So I don't think that's too much of a concern. But it's certainly curious. It does look very X-Files. The thing is, that locker was opened. The chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1. On the contrary, one could argue just the opposite. Chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward from me with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why? I don't know what to present on. Oh, I don't want to fuck this up. I don't want to make mistakes, chat. That's because, how did you put it? Pay your respects once a month? Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. That locker happens to be mine. Okay, no, that nails him. The fact that we know that that's his locker means in order for it to have been opened, he had to have been there.
What? What do you mean?
I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now is a heap of broken dreams. I see. It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker. Apparently his fingerprint data was never removed from the locker's programming. He must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without even knowing it. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? The seal of blood. The desert is just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. The security tape. So long as my trail isn't in there, you can't say otherwise.
This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now then, continue your testimony.
Too bad it wasn't me in that video, right, partner? That is false, sir. And in fact, the video proves that it is you. Fucker. Your Honor, that statement contradicts this Okay, so that's the wrong evidence? I've got the right idea, but the wrong evidence? I don't see anything contradictory. What? Okay. Did think. Yeah, maybe I have to press him before I can accuse him? What do you mean by that? You want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have. But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots.
Blind spots?
Places you can't see. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught on tape. Yeah, the judge is an idiot. We've established this, Luca. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright.
Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now.
Okay, so I just had to press and then I could present evidence. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake.
Now then, let's have another look at the video.
I mean, Chris, neither did Phoenix, and Phoenix is doing okay. Fast forward, faster, fast forward.
There! You fucker!
Bringing our attention back to the security camera is a mistake I'm afraid you'll not soon forget. That's the way it's normally phrased. Days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. The days are not short in Texas, from what I've heard. Least of all in summer. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. That locker with the white cloth sticking out. That was the witnesses, I believe. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. God, rewind faster.
Oh! The white cloth. It's gone. What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall?
When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then, it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away.
Order! Order!
Hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man. So what if my locker was open? that doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened a locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? This guy isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say I opened that locker? Now prove it. What? Oh, okay. Evidence locker. I forgot that I had this in my evidence, and I'm like, how do I connect this? Fingerprint sensor? Before the rest, I thought he was just saying, which made me very happy. We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to. What kind of crazy talk is this? Thank you, Luca. Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There are even some people on the force that don't know about the fingerprint locks. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? Sir, if your jerky is that tough, you need to buy better jerky. No!
Order, order, order! Witness, explain yourself.
If this is a joke, it's the worst I've ever heard. I assure you, this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime.
Olay, please answer the question.
Judge, what the fuck? That is untrue, Josh. Because even though the game came out in 2001, the game is set in 2031, which makes it weird that, like, security cameras still use videotapes, but I guess they really do still use them. What is he now, a bullfighter? Yeah, this case was added later, so... Correct, Josh, because technology doesn't advance unless you want it to. That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure the rest out from here.
We can?
Have a look at these floor plans. There is no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet, Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall.
That's so, then where was the witness?
It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. Do I? That's right, the only possible conclusion. Oh God, Chris, that hurts my soul.
Well then, let's hear it.
What? 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 I don't know. Oh, I get it. This is assuming that the victim and Marshall are different people. And the point is they're not. Okay, I get what they're doing. I was just confused. Chen, you cannot just appear out of nowhere and gift subs. Thank you for the gifted sub to Joshua Caleb. Sorry, I was like, but Meekins did see him. Officer Marshall was standing right here.
Yeah, but that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was.
Correct, unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you, dressed up like Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his card, sir. Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond? He suddenly pulled a knife on me. A knife? Like a certain Officer Marshall always carries with him? Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? And Chen, thank you for gifting a sub to Nikki. Good lord. You are going crazy, Chen. I will fucking ban you. I won't. Mods, please don't do that. But it is much appreciated.
Yes, we would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it.
No, I'm not actually going to ban Chen. I just want Chen to stop spending money on me and start spending money on himself because he's a cutie. He deserves. Juice, how dare! Juice, unban! Unban! I will fight you! Oh, I love how chaotic my chat is. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card.
Oh, I get it.
If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? Yeah. Oh, Zay, didn't you realize? Officer Goodman is a square-shaped gray man. That's a perfectly accurate photo. Sir! Sir, that's not jerky. You're trying to eat a shoe. You got quite an imagination, partner. You got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it. You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim.
I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition.
I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Well, that's the second time you've complained, so actually... Luca!
Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim?
Do I? I don't think I do. Do I? It's gonna be the missing piece of the jar, isn't it? I have no reason to think that, but I'm also completely certain that it is. Ah. Ah. Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. Ugh! This can't be happening. It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics? For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Phoenix, try thinking outside of the box. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise. But I should rather look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was opened in the first place?
What do you mean?
There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance that he might be discovered despite the chance it might be discovered later as it had been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker.
According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then, after the crime was committed, he opened his locker for some unknown reason.
The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside.
So, just what exactly is this piece of cloth?
Perhaps the video is the key to all our unanswered questions. I don't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot.
Very well, let's take yet another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness had to open the locker.
God, the music, it came back for me. Aha, aha. The blood. The jacket's covered in blood. Which is why he had to hide it, because he couldn't go out covered in blood. For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room, though I don't know to what end yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood.
A bloody white coat!
You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, partner. That's still circumstantial evidence.
Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth?
Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. Yeah, I was thinking something similar, Chris. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now, would we? Correct, Chris. Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it. All right, it seems the time has come. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out and managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on the camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15.
So the supposed victim was really you?
But there's one more thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. I guess he's the donor. It was way too much blood for such a small donation. Look, when you slaughter a cow in the evidence room, there's blood. Why did you have to do it that day? I know why, but I want his words. When you say it, you mean... Do you even have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident. 2 years have passed since the case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day. Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only the case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner, that case is mine. But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? Oh, I don't know, because his brother was one of the victims? That day was my last chance. That's why I... plan to take out the evidence. Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal. I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera.
And the detective's ID card?
I stole that the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filling out that lost item report. I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot. The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So, essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself. But he could because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time.
Officer Meekins certainly is a one-in-a-million type of person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID?
I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year. God damn, Edgeworth, how do you have that kind of power? Okay, thank you, Phoenix, for asking the same question. When did Edgeworth get so much influence? Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way. With me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say.
So you knocked Officer Meekins out and...
and managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on the camera. So you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat in the struggle with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby.
So, what you're saying is on that day,
there wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:50. But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole the evidence from the locker. Actually, no, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone.
What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence?
It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. I just want to quickly check something. So we're only confused about one person. And this person must be the person who went in there and took the evidence. It does, Luca. Even more than the other ones. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. God, sometimes my attempt at a Texan accent slips even more than usual. It's not a good accent to begin with. And then on top of that, the slips. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer. This is no small offense. God, Chris, you were right all along. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. You should not be making those decisions, Edgeworth. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied.
Witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more.
I can't just forget the SL9 incident. You know why? That case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it?
That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence.
Thank you, Luca. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence.
I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it?
I don't intend to complain about how it turned out. But there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about.
What happened?
Or, as the judge should say,
what happened?
God, trying to do a
what happened
in the judge voice is very difficult. Also you, Nikki. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think his real reason is. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Also you, Chris. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. You'd better take another look at the files. Um... I know why he can't forget it. Because one of the victims is a Neil Marshall. Now, in the real world, Marshall is a reasonably common name. So that wouldn't mean much. But in the world of the game... Actually, they're gonna ask me, like, which page it's on. Okay, page 2, victims. Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. Cactus juice. It'll quench you. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here. In a list of murder victims. Oh, y'all are fantastic. Thank you. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? You must be talking about the King of Prosecutors Award. Now I remember, Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right, he was killed, and the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. Okay. Okay? That is a good-looking man. I feel the hat's still a bit silly. That is a good-looking man. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, the then Deputy Chief of Police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. And you did. Also, oh my god, that man has a terrifying face. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least according to the public record. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions? There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me.
Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime.
That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. Merrick, thank you so much for the follow. It is much appreciated. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's got to be more than that.
So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one.
Which, in turn, means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. But wait! A verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. It seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner. All of the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye, and the testimony of one Miss Angel Star is completely incontestable. Except for how she lied several times. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. Ugh! I rest my case.
It seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt.
Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera's tapes really was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty.
Now then, time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant...
Fuck yes, Emma! Your Honor, wait! Emma! The defense has an objection. A scientific objection. Right? What do you mean, right?
Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian?
As in, legally? No. I met her 3 days ago, and apparently we have in that time become fast friends. Your Honor? Oh, in a sense. Please, Your Honor. All I'm asking is for a minute of your time. God damn it! What? This is just a kangaroo court. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. Okay. It is a very colloquial phrase, but a kangaroo court is basically... it's basically just a court where the rules don't apply. What it actually means is... I'm looking up the definition now. An unofficial court held by a group of people in order to try someone regarded, especially without good evidence, as guilty of a crime or misdemeanor. It has been extended to just mean any situation where the rules do not properly apply. A kangaroo court may ignore due process and come to a predetermined conclusion. I realize without the context, it sounds completely bonkers. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings. Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky Sisters were in that file. Hello, Gummy. Oh, are you a good kitten? Sorry, chat, I've got priorities. Hi, baby. Hi, Gummy. Oh, are you a good kitten? I'm going in for the trap. Gummy has revealed Tumby. What about Tumby? You want to be on desk while I play Gummy? Would that make you happy? No. I timed it very carefully. I did what about Tumby and then pulled away before my hand could be destroyed. Oh. Oh! Are you a good kitten? God, I wish I had face cam at the moment. Oh! Oh, are you a lovely kitten? The names of both Sky Sisters were in that file. That's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing. Oh, shit, she's right. The other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker?
No fingerprints were found on it, right?
No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again. So did you find something? No. That's less helpful than I would have hoped. Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Well, you are 16, so, you know, it's fully justified. That all? Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student. Correct. I didn't expect more of you. Phoenix is apparently... And I'm just an attorney. But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them... Okay, the fact... Who put them there? Someone wearing gloves is the answer. Please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you. Me? Oh, boy.
Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain?
It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Yeah, reasonably so. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Yep, it would have been directly on camera. Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be...
Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day.
Yes, Your Honor. If I've ever needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with that handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? Ah, there is a problem. Which is, at the time of the fake murder, the Blue Badger was there. But that's where Sonic OC was. Which means no one could have put the handprint there at that time. Which means that happened before. This handprint left at the crime scene. Your cat is called Katara? Oh, that's such a good name, Mara. Clearly shows a contradiction. The only thing that seems clear is you're grasping, Mr. Wright.
You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them?
Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark.
Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Well, Mr. Wright,
All this evidence here. There's gotta be something I can use.
Question is, which item can prove something is missing in the floor plan?
Yeah, was allegedly dancing in the evidence room at the time of the murder.
What about that piece of plywood?
The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force. Sonic OC, do not steal. Defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not there. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well,
what?
Yeah. That's right. So long as the Blue Badger is dancing there, it would be impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker.
What? So that means... just what exactly does that mean?
It means it can't be done.
What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker.
Oh, Juice, he farted really hard. Since he considers himself to be a cowboy, he eats beans all the time. Don't look at me, I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. Emma, on that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger to the evidence room, right? God save! Oh my god, I thought that was a bad way to behead. After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker. Do not! Do not! Oh my god, please! God damn it! I will... God damn it. I will marry Beans. I could have Beans in some form almost every day. Beans are fucking great.
Alright, it's decision time. So, would you rather have a punch in the face? Or a kick in the balls?
You know what? This is like a punch in the face or a kick in the balls. No, you know what? I'll fuck Beans I'll fuck Beans because I feel like the sauce would do a good job. I will marry cow leather. Because honestly, like, leather is a really, really good material, and I will kill jerky because jerky is not as good as biltong, but it always makes me miss biltong. Biltong is a South African thing, similar to jerky, but so much better. That must mean this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was brought in. No, Juice! Okay, Beans does not necessarily mean Bean Boozled. It gave me one of the oops all good ones, but there are none left in. Okay, buttered popcorn or rotten egg. Let's find out. Oh! Oh! Oh, that just tastes so bad. No, no, Gummy. Gummy, do not. The bean bowl is not something you want to be involved with. You know what, Chris? That's a much better one. I will marry Dunban. Because, God, Dunban's gonna treat you right. I will fuck Shulk, because I feel like Shulk will be a gentle lover. And out of the three of them, I'll kill Ryan. Oh, I can still taste the egg in my mouth.
Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom.
Yeah, Ryan would treat me right. But... I mean, Dunban's the coolest. Ryan isn't the coolest. It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once but twice. Ooh, bedweight behead. Bacon, eggs, or pancakes? Marry eggs, fuck bacon, kill pancakes. If I'm gonna lose one of them, it's pancakes. It sucks, but eggs you marry because eggs are good every way, almost every way you treat them. Eggs you can have every day, and it's not going to be like a major issue. Eggs are a lifetime commitment. Bacon is great, but bacon is not an everyday thing. Pancakes, I could leave or take. But how? One time was captured on this tape. Taken by the security camera. I mean, people go back and forth on it, Chris. But evidence suggests that in moderation, like 1 or 2 eggs a day is not major, and you can certainly have eggs several times a week. If you have that amount of bacon several times a week, it's gonna be much worse than the eggs. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman, when he was really murdered. Yeah, that's fair, Chris. That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the first incident occur?
To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room.
That's right.